Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, we're actually building an N-scale structure. That's right, N-scale. I actually have 5 N-scale structures that are going to fill in this corner back here and really give it some depth. Now, the structure we're building today is the largest one out of the 5. I chose that because it will be up close. It's going right next to this large Icho scale structure right here. The windows are large, so it won't look out of place next to that. Now, if you were to buy this structure in HO scale, it would be twice the size and it would be huge. It would not fit in this area. But because it's N scale, it's smaller and it's going to look really nice and fill in that area right there. Well, you'll see when we build it. All right, we have a lot to do, so let's get to it. Okay, so here is the N-scale kit that we're going to be building. Now, I've already opened this and I've been sort of rearranging the walls to see what I could come up with. So we have 2 side walls that are the same. You'll see that there is a flat piece along the bottom. I'll show you on the box. We're probably going to have to cut that off so that we can stack that just like that. Actually, I could probably just shave those raised areas down and glue that flat just like that. And then we'll have to do a flat roof, and then this will go up on top. So it's basically if I can't see that, let me move this. Okay, so it's going to look like this with this up on top. And then we have walls for the side. We'll use that one for the side, and then we'll have to cut it straight. And we'll use that for the side and cut the peak off. And then this one will go up on top, and we'll put that going back for the side. So we're only going to do 2 sides, the front and one side. Okay, so far I have cut the peak off of the top of that just to make it straight, because that's going to be a side wall for that. This one will leave just like that. These 2, I cut the peak off so it's straight, both of them. Now we need to attach these 2, and on the back there's this raised design that we need to file off. And let me show you. There is a line I don't know if you can see that or not, but that is a great stopping guide. So we'll carve all this away right down to the top of that line. Now they're both identical, so it doesn't matter which one we use. So as you can see, pretty easy. Hopefully you can see that good. Now we're just going to take some sandpaper and rough that up so that the glue has something to stick to. And then on this one we want to do the front, just the smooth area. You can see I'm going in a circular motion. We can take a wet brush Okay, now okay, we'll leave that there. Make sure it completely dries. These two have to be glued together, but it has to match that height. So I'm probably going to have to make trim for that area, and then there's trim right here. And I'm going to have to put a strip there for the trim. And then we'll probably just put a sign, a billboard right there, or a very large vent or something to cover up that door. Okay, the walls are all finished. These go together like this, and I've decided that it's not going to be a 90-degree angle. I'll have to go over to the layout and figure out the area that I have, but it's going to be something more like that. And then on top of that, in the center, we're going to have this, and I took the wall and cut it in half, and then that'll go like that. Okay, now I'm going to spray these with primer, and then I'm going to spray all of the windows with a gray primer. So I put a gray primer on all of the doors and windows, and I thought, why not do that over the walls? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dry brush some of the brick. Now I don't recommend using a sponge, because the sponge will get down into the mortar. So unless maybe you have a makeup sponge, a cosmetic sponge is flat and it's a fine sponge, that might work. But like I said, I'm just going to dry brush brick colors over it. Okay, we're going to start with burnt sienna. So you want to wipe most of it off your brush. And don't go up and down, straight up and down, and don't go sideways, because then you risk getting in the mortar joints. So what you want to do is go at an angle. Now this will take a long time, because we're probably going to do at least 3 colors. And you just want to build it up slowly. If you try doing it all at once, you'll get a lot of paint in your mortar joints. Don't worry if it looks splotchy, because we're going to come in with more colors. It's probably really hard to see, but it is starting to turn brown. Now I just took Tangerine from Folk Art and mixed it in with my Sierra Brown and brushed over the walls. Now I'm going to take this reddish color and do the same. Now some of you may be wondering why I didn't spray the walls white and then put the brick colors over the white so that the mortar would be white. This is a background structure. I don't want it to stand out. I want it to look like it's further back than what it is, and that's why I went with the gray. Now I just keep mixing it on my paper towel here, and you just want to kind of go random with it. Now I'm mixing terracotta and tangerine. Now we're going to take desert sand and mix that with the tangerine. And this will really just be for highlights. I found a picture online that may help explain the look that I'm going for with forced perspective. Now notice in the front, in the foreground, the mortar joints. You notice the variation in shades of the brick color. Hopefully you can see that and there's not a glare, but as it goes further back, it just goes to an orange brown color. It almost looks solid and you see very little detail. So this is the illusion that we want to create. The further back it is, the more of just a solid color that it becomes. I also wanted to point out that the further back that it gets, the lighter it gets. It's not as vibrant, so it almost fades. Let me show you in colors here. So you could start out with a reddish brick color, and then it gets a little more brown, a little more orange or tan, and ends up being this orange tan color all the way at the very end, just to create that illusion of depth. Now we're going to work on all of the doors and windows, and we're just going to simply do some dry brushing of a light gray called Gray Sky. Okay, now we have to cut all of these off. Well, as you can see, I've got the windows glued in. Now I simply put this together, you'll see. I just taped it because I wanted to see what it would look like in place over on the layout. We have quite a bit of work to do still because this wall gets put like that. And then we'll have to build a cardboard wall that goes from this point over to this furthest point. So it's like a triangle. And then this, there'll be a rooftop. And so the roof line will be right there. So this will actually sit down a little bit lower and it'll sit back. So there's the top. And then this structure, this little one here, will go like that. And the reason for that, going all the way back, is because if you leave this forward how it is now, it creates a shadow on the wall. And to create the illusion, you don't want a shadow on the wall. So by moving that back and then just putting the side on it, then we don't get a shadow. I got so excited with the way that first building was turning out that I quick grabbed this kit. And let me show you what I've already got done. So as you can see, I just took each panel and stacked them. And then in the front, I cut that. So that's the bottom. And then that top piece got put all the way at the top. Now my plan is to lay this on my photocopier and photocopy it. And that's how I'm going to make the side wall. Now I only need to make one side because it'll be a triangle shape. And we're only going back, I think when I measured it, it was like 3 inches. Now I'll have to do it in 2 sections because this would take up, the height of this would take a full sheet of paper. And then I'll have to make another one for this so that it goes back. And then, of course, to hide the door that's up here, and we'll probably cover this window too, I'll probably do a sign right there. Now, another neat thing about this is that when I glued these all together, I sprayed the whole thing with a blue. It's called French blue. And this is fairly close to the blue that's in the sky on my backdrop. So by spraying it blue, and then I used terracotta and started really light at the top. And then as I went down, I got heavier and heavier with the paint. And I already set this over on the layout, and it gives the illusion that it sits back further than what it does, and that it's taller than what it is. Well, I just can't help myself. I'm just having so much fun making these. The bad thing is we don't have any one finished yet. But I do want to start another one. Now this one I have been laying out the walls and trying to figure out how I'm going to put it together. Okay, so we have this section, and again, I'll paint them, get the windows in, and then I'll lay them on my photocopier and photocopy them for the side walls. So this one goes on the bottom. It goes like this. We have a roof in here. So from the front, it looks like that. And we'll put this piece over here, and then put this piece on top. Now this piece here, we're going to have to do a lot to it. And actually, I think we might do a square sign. Or you know what we'll do? We'll do a long rectangle. A long rectangle sign right there. Really big. On all three of these that we've got going so far, I may actually laser cut some signs where the lettering is three-dimensional. I don't know, we'll play around with that later. Then I think this will sit back further on the roof, but that'll go like that. So that's the overall shape. This one definitely is a bit more complicated. It looks big now, but over on the layout, this is actually pretty small. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the whole thing. I'm going to spray all of the walls with blue and start with that as our base color. Then we'll get a really light gray for all of this, and then we'll do a really light color for the brick. Okay, again, we're going to spray this with French blue. Okay, it's all painted blue, and I even did the windows. Now we're going to take gray sky and a sponge and sponge over the walls. And we may even mix in a little bit of baby blue with it. Okay, I just mixed terracotta and warm skin tone, and I did 50-50. Now this definitely is going to take a while. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a solid color. The colors look kind of weird now, but I promise once we get over on the layout, it's going to look a lot better. Okay, that color is all done. Next, we're going to create a wash. And we're using bittersweet chocolate. And we're going to put a wash over all these walls. A very thin wash. I didn't paint all of this because we have a big sign that's going to cover that area. Now I just made a green wash, and we're going to go over all of the doors and windows, and I'm using Hauser medium green. Okay, now we'll just let this all sit and dry. Okay, while we're waiting for all those other parts to dry, let's go ahead and start another one. So here are the two side walls. And we're going to stack those. And then it was supposed to go like this. So we'll stack those. This one, I simply cut off the top. So that's what it'll look like. And there's parts in the center here. We're gonna end up putting some tall signs, and I'm thinking about making this maybe it's a bottling company, and so we have a large soda bottle, picture of a soda bottle on there. Something like that, just thinking out loud. Now when you're doing work like this, I love this flat file, and so I have been filing all of the pieces on all the kits we've been working on. You want them really nice and flat so that they glue together without any seams showing. Okay, these have all been filed, so let's start to get these glued together, and then we'll get a primer put on it. As you can see, I just cut off the bottom where that door was so that the windows lined up. So now all we have to do is create a sign that covers just right there in the center. And then I think we'll have this set back just a little bit. Okay, the weathering's done. Now I'm going to scan these into my computer so that I can print out extra walls. Okay, so I got the walls all scanned and made some prints. I also took this, which is an HO scale wall. It was on the back side of the layout, and I scanned this in. Once it was in the computer, I shrunk it down, and then as you can see, I changed the colors, and I was able to duplicate another layer. You see, this only had 3 windows. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's so much that you can do once you get it in the computer. You can see I even ghosted a sign. I added some shadows. I put some shadows. It's hard to tell, but there's shadows in the windows right there at the top of each one, just to make it look like they're inset a little bit more. Now, you could use it just like this, which I'm going to, but you could print 3 of these and glue all 3 of them to cardboard. Then on your first one, lay it down. Then your second one, cut out all of your windows and glue it on top of that layer. So now the windows are showing through from the first layer. Hopefully that makes sense. On your third layer, cut out the center of all these so that all you get are the columns, and then glue that. So now you have 3 layers, and you wouldn't have to add the shadows then, because there would actually be real life shadows, and it would take on more of a 3-dimensional look and actually look like a model. That is a lot of work. It's a lot of cutting, and we will be doing that on certain areas of the layout, but for today I'm just going to use this. We're going to put a side on it, so it's going to be kind of a triangle shape, a long sliver, and then that way we can put a little water tower on top, maybe some smokestacks, maybe a sign to just add some detail to it. Oh, real quick, I did want to mention that I used Photoshop to create this. So I have an Apple computer, and then I have a scanner hooked up to it. So I scanned my wall, and then in Photoshop, a lot of cutting and pasting and blending seams with the stamping tool. And then there's a tool that will darken areas, and just go over that with your paintbrush and darken it. And then with the sign, you can then put, once you have the wall the way you want it, you put a sign. I put the Coke sign over that, and then there's a tool that allows you to make it transparent, and you can make it as little or as much transparency as possible. You really have complete control over it. Then you have an eraser tool that allows you to chip away at it so that the brick layer underneath the sign shows through when you use the eraser tool. Didn't show this because there's so much to learning the program Photoshop and learning how to use an Apple computer. I think a lot of people, they're just on a PC. So I apologize for not showing that, but that is sort of the background on how I created it. And the same with these walls. They all got scanned. So I just glued it on some thick mat board. And now what's great is you can take a dark gray marker, and if you want, you can add shadows. So I just glued the sidewall on using my 1, 2, 3 blocks. Just giving that a second to set up. And then I cut 3 slivers, 3 little triangle shapes. And we'll do one at the bottom, one in the middle, and one at the top. Okay, I just painted the top of it a dark gray. Now we'll take some strip wood and put trim across the top and paint it to look like concrete. And then we'll get a small water tower that I'm 3D printing right now. We'll get that put up there, and maybe a couple smokestacks and some vents. Okay, I found a piece of strip wood that we're going to use to cap the top of it. And I'm first going to paint it with chalk paint, and this is called Castle. Okay, the trim is all glued on. Now we're going to work on this structure again, and now we're cutting out the side wall. And the colors don't have to match perfectly. It'll be on the side, and it will probably have a shadow. So that will go just like that. And then the top one, we'll have to cut that too, and that'll go back. First we need to try to cut this edge at an angle. So I'm just going to slant my blade and carefully cut it, because this has an angle on it. So yeah, that works. Okay, I just took a marker, it's a cool gray number 4, and use the pointy side and put a shadow. Make sure it's to the right of anything that's raised, and then I put a shadow underneath the overhang of the windows. It looks a little extreme, especially right next to that, but when it's on the side, because this stuff is all raised and the light creates natural shadows, where this is flat. So when we put that on the side, Okay, I'm gluing the supports on the back, and I first use super glue, and then also use white Elmer's glue. And then I run a bead of Elmer's glue behind this too. And I put the glue on the wrong side. Let's try this again. Okay, so I've printed out 4 of these, so we can glue these to our mat board and then make the sides. This is what it will look like from the front. And then we'll need to cover these 2 holes with maybe vents, and then we're going to put a large sign over the blue area or gray area right there. Hopefully you're not getting confused with me jumping around working on different buildings. Let's go over to the layout and see where we're at so far. Okay, we still have a lot of work to do. We need to complete that one, glue in the windows, put some sides on it. We need to complete that one and put a side on it. I want to point out the color on the bottom of this one right here. You can see where it blends in well with the brick that's already on here. And then as it goes up, you get more of the bluish gray color that's in the sky. It gives the illusion that it's further back than what it is and that it's taller than what it is. This building and this building are at the exact same level. But hopefully this one looks a little further back to you. I did the same on this one. The brick color is a little more vibrant at the bottom, and then as it gets taller, we get more into the whites and the blues of the sky. Now what's really going to pull this off is we need to put trees in between each level. Because right now, the structures look like they're just right in front of each other, stacked. So by putting trees in between the 2 buildings, it'll add even more depth. Because we want this to look like this gradually goes uphill. And so by planting trees in between all these buildings, it'll create that illusion. Now the building that we were just going to start, that sits up here. And that'll be surrounded by trees too. Let me give you an example. I'll show you this area right here. I'm going to turn the camera off, put in some trees, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now you can see where it doesn't look like it's right in front of it, like there's actually some space. Here's another example of just adding some trees in there. And that tree line would go down right there. So we'd fill that in with some trees and put trees along here. And we'll fill this in with trees. It really adds a lot and gives it even more depth. And so I wanted to quick show you that area without the trees. And you can see, now it just looks like it's directly in front of it. Real quick, I probably should explain this sitting here. This will get cut in half right down the center. And the other side of it looks exactly like the front. The other side will then get put over here. We'll have to cut it in half so that the arch continues and goes up, and then it'll continue and have a flat side right here with a bridge abutment right on the end of it. And then the land from the edge here will just go straight back to the wall. And then we'll have to fill in the center of the arches with either a stone texture like that or like that, and just add brick to it. There's so much to be done. You know, all of this has to be removed, and we have to put a shelf in. I don't know if you remember this side, but we removed everything, and using liquid nails, we stacked foam and made a shelf and put it in there permanently. So you can see that track will curve and go right along there. So it'll come around, go down, and then curve behind those buildings, and it comes out right there. So we need to put in a permanent shelf in there and cut that curve, and then the front of it will probably be covered in rock or stone. That has to be covered too. That'll probably be rock. And we'll probably do the same over here and just put rock. It'll be simple, and you really won't see much of it because of all the buildings in front of it. We'll also be adding lots of detail on the rooftops. Vents, water towers, little access sheds, a lot of detail. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this video up because I'm sure it's getting pretty long, but I love the view from here. Wow, I had no idea when I started this video that I'd be getting this much done. Wow, well, thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And like always, a huge thank you to all my Patreons. All right, until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.